Alright guys, so it's been a little while. We have still been chasing fuel issues with this thing. We're still having this issue with it leaning out. I've been filming a lot of what we're doing, but I've decided to sort of leave a lot of it out and just condense the video a bit, because as we went through our fault finding process and so much of what we thought was going to be wrong wasn't, it ends up becoming a very convoluted process where it's very hard to follow for most people, I think. So we've been chasing this issue for a little while. We've tried to eliminate everything we could with our fuel system to make sure it's nothing to do with that. And we're still coming back to the fact that we're pretty sure that this is going to be a faulty reg situation. From everything that's presented, the fuel system seems to be getting air into it somehow, which we're still investigating what's going on and how that's happening. As you can see, trays off so that we can get at all the fuel system stuff and inspect it all. So we're trying to figure out where the air in the fuel system is getting in or where it's coming from. We've pressurized everything. We can't find anywhere that fuel's leaking out. So when fuel's not leaking out, it's hard to understand where air's getting in. So it's really weird. We're still looking for it, but I'll keep you updated on the process as we go, and hopefully we can get this sorted ASAP, because we really want this thing done and we really want to see some actual results out of it. Alright guys, welcome back. It's time, today is the day to get started on the power tune on this thing. So I'm back from my little getaway, had a week off last week. While I was away, Rex did a little bit of steady state, just getting this thing sort of run in more or less, and just working on a little bit of the tune, getting it there. But he was so kind enough to wait for me to get back to do the power tune so that I could be here and we could film it, and I could make some great content for you guys on this thing, because it's been a pretty popular build and we're pretty excited about it. So we have already had a few problems. As you can see, it is a car, so in true car fashion, there are still a few things that we've had problems with. The first thing seems to be we're having an issue with this regulator. So it's making a god-awful noise, and it's really got us stumped. Rex, on a few runs that he did during the week, found that it was dropping pressure, which is obviously not a great thing. So we have a little bit of fault finding to try and figure out what the hell's going on with this. So not smooth sailing yet. So we'll see how we go. We'll go through, take us through the day, see what we can get to, and hopefully we can get this thing sorted. So one bit of good news to report is that Rex found, while running it up during the week, just doing some steady state stuff, that it is running 13 PSI boost, which is awesome, because with this combination of this cam and these heads and this pulley setup, we were not quite sure how much boost we were going to get out of what the setup was. So the fact that we're getting 13 PSI is awesome. This thing is going to be menacing. It's gonna make some pepper. So hopefully we can get our fuel situation under control and really see what it's going to do today. So you can see here, this is our air-fuel ratio. You can see how it was leaning out on Rex, and Rex was just saying that he had these 3 runs in a row that were actually pretty good. It didn't do it. And all of them were, he stopped to put fuel in the car, and then he had 3 good runs before it started leaning out again. And so
the blue one, and then this orange one. So it was all right. It started to do it, and it gets worse.
Yeah, so it was doing it before these runs, and then he had an hour break, put some fuel in the car, and then it started doing again after he had 3 good runs. So our theory at the moment is that it is potentially the pressure in the fuel tank, because, you know, we've got pretty high fuel demand now, and there's not really any extra breathing for the fuel tank except for what was originally the purge setup and the carbon canister. So there's no extra breathing, so it could be that our high fuel demand is draining the tank and causing some pressure in the tank, which is obviously not good for fueling, and you're going to find some leaning out.
Pressure being a vacuum, specifically.
Yeah, vacuum, sorry.
Yep.
Negative pressure.
Negative pressure.
Bad pressure. So we have seen it before. It does happen. So that's the theory at the moment. So we're going to try, do a bit of testing with the cap, take the cap off the tank, let the tank breathe through the filler hole, see if that helps our situation. Hopefully it's something that simple. Still doesn't explain the noise that the reg makes, but at least it will maybe explain this bit of leaning out that we're getting.
Yeah, time gets worse.
Yeah, so Rex has just loaded the last 3 that he did, and you can see how much worse they're getting. So it certainly seems the way that it progressively gets worse. It certainly seems like it could be that building of a vacuum in the fuel tank.
Yeah, so you can see, as I was saying to you, when I was telling you about it, it's not at any specific RPM, it's not at any specific load.
And it does seem to consistently get worse.
Yep.
So being that Rex was just here on his own, chasing fuel pressure issues can be very difficult when you're by yourself. You sort of need to have a second set of eyes to be at 2 different places at one time. So Rex had other stuff to do during the week. That's why he didn't really waste too much time trying to figure this out while I wasn't here when I was going to be back anyway. So that's why it's been left until now. And in that time, Rex has had plenty of time to think of a few things. And that's going to be the first thing we're going to try, because it is the most simple fix, and it makes sense. So we'll give it a go. So we'll leave it on to now until we can try and emulate the same thing, and we'll take it off and see what it does. So this is what the reg's doing. The one time it won't. Hear that? Sounds horrific. Doesn't sound very good. Alright guys, so far so good, which is kind of worrying. It's, you know, it's nice that it's no longer doing this issue with leaning out, but it's also really bad because it means we don't know what it was doing. And we don't know if we fixed it because we can't get it to do it again. So it's a bit of a worry. It's still just got all the running in oil and everything in it. It's still only the run-in stage at the moment, so we're not going into full power runs probably until this afternoon after we've done the service and flushed this oil out and everything else. So we're just trying to play around with it, trying to get it to do this again so we can try and figure out exactly what's wrong with it. But at this point it seems super duper happy. So, but one thing we are still a little bit concerned about is that we are at 90% injector duty cycle already, which is not super cool. Obviously it's a supercharger setup. It's not going to be making any more boost than it is now. At this stage we've only revved it out to about 6,000. We don't really plan on turning it too much harder than that, depending on what it's doing as far as power goes. But hopefully we have enough injector to make this all happen. So anyway, still just real conservative with timing as we do the run-in obviously, and that's pretty much where we're at. So we'll play with it a little bit more, keep trying to see if we can get it to do this fuel problem. And it's just going to have to be one of those things to keep an eye out through the tune, obviously, and hopefully we can emulate it and make it do it again, because we'd really like to find out exactly what it is so that we have the peace of mind of knowing that it's fixed. The last thing we want is for something like that to happen to this thing while it's out on track or something like that. So, alright, so I just ducked home to get some lunch, and I came back and Rex had killed everything. Leave him alone for 20 minutes.
I just got sick of it.
So he did manage to get it to redo our lean out. It just randomly started doing it. So Rex actually got to try pulling the cap off the fuel tank, and it made no difference. So oddly enough, it was a good probably hour. It just did not do it at all. Was fine for a good hour, and then all of a sudden just started doing it again.
Yeah, it was 1-2, and then I took the cap off. It was 1-2.
Yeah, so same thing, just still doing it. And yeah, so it started doing that, which was, at least we've got the problem back, which means we can try and figure out what it is and fix it. But then Rex did a right on the ECU, and the right failed, and it's bricked the ECU, which is our last spare one that we've got at the moment. So unfortunately, we'll pull the one out of the cruiser to put in it so that we can drive it around, but we're gonna have to send another load of ECUs to our guy to get done, which is a pain. It means that's pretty much gonna be it for today. We'll call this essentially the run-in is finished. So we'll put the other one in it so that we can move it around. We'll get it on the hoist, change the oil, do everything we gotta do our service, and just have a general check over of everything as we normally would after a run-in. And once we get these ECUs back, we'll try again. Try and figure out what this issue is and try and actually get some power out of this thing. So unfortunately that's gonna be later, maybe even next week now, until we get these things back. So that's why we'll leave it for now, and we'll pick this up in a minute. So another glamorous day being a tuner.
I love killing ECUs. It's just heaps of fun.
It's great.
I love it. I love watching that little green bar, and then when it says access timeout or something stupid, and you're like, oh, yes.
It's exactly what I wanted on my Monday.
Yeah, thanks Monday.
Good Monday.
You dog!
Alright guys, so we just chucked the other ECU in it to get it running, and just ran it up a few times just to make sure it's all good. Once again, fuel was fine for 3 runs in a row, not doing the lean out, so really weird, and that was after leaving it for a little while. So not too sure. We have a few things to check once we get an ECU back and get it back on the dyno for our power ons to start doing a few things. One thing we're thinking at the moment is potentially the lift pump isn't keeping up enough to the surge, and it's okay for a little while, a few runs, until the surge gets to a point where you're doing back-to-back runs and it gets worse and worse and worse, and basically the surge is running out of fuel. So that's a possibility that we're thinking at the moment, which is, can't imagine that EFI pump that's feeding the surge wouldn't be enough. But anyway, a few things to think about, but we'll get to it. Righto guys, so it's been about 2 weeks. We've got our ECUs back, which is awesome. So we're sort of back onto this thing. Anyway, it's just been one of those things, another one of those cars that just is fighting. But you know, we were in a big rush to get it done just because we wanted it done, just because it's been here for so long. But like the owner and stuff, he's not, there's no other rush, there's no other push to get the car finished really in a hurry. All that's going to happen is he's going to take it home and put it in the shed until probably later on in the year when he gets the diff done. He's not planning on, you know, registering it or using it straight away anyway. So it's not been a huge push. So it's just been a matter of waiting for stuff. As far as our regulator issue goes, we are at this stage still thinking that it's a regulator issue. We do have another one here which hopefully we can make work to just for testing purposes to see if we can rule that out. So that's what we're thinking at the moment. But anyway, now that the ECU's back, we can continue on with this thing and hopefully not lose another ECU. So in our box of random fittings, we do have this regulator. It's a aeromotive one, so, oh no, it's AEM, sorry. It's an AEM reg, but it doesn't have to be the best thing, just as long as it works for testing purposes. We don't plan on leaving it on there, but we are at this stage still pretty certain that there's a problem with this regulator.
Somehow get from that -6 to a -8, however, we have to do that.
Man, having a box of fittings is real handy.
Do we have anything that goes from -6 to -8? I don't care, male to male, male to female.
Look at that. What even are you, Clarence? How to get from 6 orb to 8 flare with just a box of trash. Goodness gracious. Elixirs. Alright, so we've got that ready to go for a bit later on. Alright, so we've pretty much just been continuing on with the tune, trying to get it to emulate that lean out that it was doing before, which we finally did, but in the meantime we managed to get fuel all good and Rex started throwing timing at this thing and it's responding really, really well to timing. It's looking awesome, but you can see starting to emulate that lean out that we were getting, which is a good thing. Good in the way that there definitely is a problem that we now have to look for. So nothing worse than when you had a problem and then it goes away and you don't know what happened. So now it's time to try our new, well not new, our other regulator monstrosity thing that we've set up. Give it a go, see if that helps, see if it changes anything, see if we can see whether this is going to be a regulator issue or whether we need to start chasing an issue elsewhere. You were saying you checked the return from the surge to the tank last time though, didn't you, when I wasn't here?
Yeah, like
Yep.
I've sort of, there is fuel that's coming out of the surge and back to the tank, yeah.
Just to confirm that it's not the surge draining dry, not like the lift pump's not feeding enough to the surge tank, so Rex checked that already.
One thing I did think about doing though is, while it was doing, now that it's started to lean out, I wanted to run a piece of clear hose out to the side and
Yep.
back so you can physically see it, and that way you could watch what's happening.
Yeah, I thought that's what you did.
Well, I can't do that, and
So how did you check it?
I just checked it while it was idling and stuff.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Right.
So there was fuel returning, but,
Right.
but I can't see what it's doing when it's under power and when it's leaning out. So
I see. Nothing ever just works, does it? We're also interested a bit later on, once we got this thing sorted a bit more, to do a couple of back-to-back tests with our intake disconnected, because this is just a stock Commodore airbox at the moment. It's just got the two big holes at the front, which I'm pretty sure is just stock for the Commodore airbox. So it'd be interesting to take that off and see how much difference it makes to the power, whether we're getting any restriction in this airbox or not. Right, so that didn't work at all. That reg is cooked, but it just was leaking out the boost reference port. So straight in the bin with that reg. Not sure why it was still in the thing, in the tub, but anyway, it was.
Shane doesn't throw anything.
Yeah, but anyway, it can go into the bin. So old reg's gonna have to go back in because we don't have any other regs that we can use for this particular setup to test. So unfortunately, that's that out the window. So the next best thing we can do is start somewhere else where we can start eliminating, process of elimination for the cause of the issue. So that's going to be, as we were talking about before, checking the return from the fuel from the surge to the actual tank. So we've got to go get some clear line for the right size that we need, enough of it so that we can run it externally so that I can see while Rex is doing the power on. So just got to duck into the hardware and go buy some clear line now while we put this reg back in. Good fun.
Yay!
So you saw that first clip when we had just put this tube on. It was solid fuel. There was no air in it. It was, for a few runs, it was just solid and it was fine. But it was often when we'd back off, could see a few air bubbles coming through. A few more runs we did it, the worse it got, to the point where it was like that, just pumping air all the time. So we stopped, let it idle, and it just kept pumping air. It didn't leave the system, it kept pumping air. And you saw me squeeze the pipe and see how much it aerated the fuel that was going past it. Another problem we're having is these tyres. As you can see, they're starting to delaminate. We check the dates, they're 2016, so they're not super old, but obviously old enough. This one's a bit worse. You can see the rubber starting to come off that. So
yeah, that last run, I was watching the screen, and when I got to the end of it, saw pieces of rubber flying past the window, and I sort of knew exactly what that was straight away. I was like, oh no, that tyre's going to look real sad.
Yeah, so we're going to have to come up with another solution for wheels and tyres at the moment. But anyway, that's it for today anyway. So a few things to look at tomorrow. You can see had a 545 run in there. Getting up there, and that's...
So we're still only creeping up on time at the moment. That's not being very aggressive at all yet.
All right, guys, we got a naked. So anyway, we got this apart. We have been closer analysing how it all is meant to work and everything else. Not that we didn't when we put it together, but just more so as a sanity check. If we put it back together and it's still not working, what we're going to do is change this setup so that instead of having the internal regulator which bypasses the fuel, it feeds these venturis, which sucks the fuel into the pot, what we'll do is we'll block the reg off, delete it out of the system completely, and what we'll do is our return line that goes into the top of the tank for the bulkhead fitting there, we'll run it, instead of just running it straight into the pot, we'll run it through the return system so that all of the fuel that's returning from the surge into the fuel tank is running through these venturi so that they work that way. So that's how we'll set it up if it doesn't work this time. But from what we can figure out with this thing, it should be working. Righto, so we finally seem to be getting somewhere with this, and it's frustrating as heck. So it appears that the plug that goes into the bottom of the bulkhead, or the bulkhead for the tank for the lift pump.
I might just take this back out. It's going to be easier than doing
Probably. So the plug has two terminals, your positive and negative for the lift pump, and the negative pin looks to be broken. And what we found is that it will momentarily work and not work as you move the plug around on the bottom side of the bulkhead to the lift pump. So this could very well be our issue. This would explain why it's so random. And it just means that when that pump stops, the lift pump's having to draw fuel into the surge just with vacuum, which would be coming most likely from the return side, which would be why it's sucking in a little bit of air, why it appears to be doing that. And as this thing just moves around, it sometimes happens, it sometimes doesn't. So that explains a few things. Hopefully it is the problem, because it's a fairly simple fix. It's very frustrating that it's such a fickle, annoying problem to find, and it's cost us quite a lot of time. But at the very least, all we can hope is that it is that, and it's that simple to fix. So we'll sort that out now, and then we'll be able to try again with this thing. So we fixed that. Hopefully that's the issue. It's weird. The only reason we even figured it out is because we were trying to actually get the pump to run with the ring off so that we could see the pot and actually physically see what was going on while the pump was running, and we realised it wasn't running. And that's when we started fault finding. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have even realised. We wouldn't have even known that was a problem. So crazy, completely by chance, we accidentally found that is an issue, and we're pretty sure that's going to be the problem. Because if that's what's happening, for a few runs while the pump's working and it's earthing out and it's running, everything's sweet, we're running out fine, and then it'll stop working, and then probably a few runs after it stops working, we're draining the surge dry and it's starting to lean out because it's not sucking enough fuel in through that return, because it's operating essentially just on vacuum without that lift pump going to fill the surge, which obviously is very much not ideal. So hopefully that's a problem. The regulator's still making that noise though, so it's we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. We're still going to call Aeroflow and have a talk to them about it, just about the noise that it's making, and just have a chat to them. We would like to pull it apart just to see what's going on, but if it is a known fault or something, we don't want to not have it warranted or whatever just because we pulled it apart and that, so we want to talk to them first. But anyway, they're usually pretty cool with that stuff, so we'll get on with that. But regardless, we'll chuck this tray back on and we'll get another go at this, and hopefully we're all good and our leaning out issues sorted. Alright guys, so we've had a bit of a development with the tonner. So the owner has to go away for work tomorrow. He's got to go for a 12-week shutdown, so he's going to be away for 3 months. And he knows that even if we get it sorted next week or whatever, it's pretty much going to have to stay here for the next 12 weeks until he gets back from work, and he doesn't want to leave it in our way. So he wants to come and get it and just take it home, put it in his shed so it's out of our way. And the plan is that when he gets back from his 12-week shut, he can bring it back over here. And at that point, he will be able to just get the diff sorted and basically get the car finished off completely. So it's frustrating. It's going to keep us awake all night every night for the next 12 weeks. And it's annoying because we really wanted to get this regulator issue fixed and make sure this fuel issue was sorted out. But I can understand what he's trying to do, and we do appreciate it. But it just, unfortunately, it is what it is. So anyway, the ute will be leaving tomorrow or today. He's coming to get it today. So we don't know yet whether our fix for that lift pump has fixed our fuel supply issue or not. And we're still not really a lot closer to this regulator issue. We've talked to Rocket about an exchange or about a warranty. They've given us an email address. They want us to send them a few videos and a few things like that. So we're going to get the ball rolling with that before, like I said, we don't want to pull it apart, because once it's pulled apart, it's it's not really a warranted item anymore once we start pulling it apart. So anyway, we'll get the ball rolling with that. We'll try and get that happening. We might be able to just duck over and pull the reg off if we've got to send it back and get it exchanged and that sort of thing. We might be able to sort that out while it's over there. So that's going to be it for the for the tonner for a little while, a couple of months, until we see some final results out of it. Yeah, it's an absolute pain, but it is what it is. So thanks for watching anyway, guys. We appreciate all you watch. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. And my apologies for not getting results in this out for another few months, but we'll endeavour to do our best to get some decent results out to you guys as soon as we get it back in another couple of months. So we'll see you then. Peace out. See you. Bye.